Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. From South Trinidad to South London, Ché Leonard is a multi-hyphenate creative being featured among other exceptional individuals of Caribbean heritage who have all made significant contributions to Britain through music, carnival, poetry and the culinary arts. He joins us now to discuss some of what he is involved in. Welcome and congratulations, Ché. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Not too bad, considering. Enjoying a little bit of warm London weather at the moment.
Now, you say warm and I take that with a grain of salt, but if it's warm for you, great. But in terms of looking at living close to Coquille to now being in Croydon, give us a few of those stops along the way, thanks.
We migrated back to the UK as myself to join the rest of my family in March 1989. In Trinidad, I was always involved with the music side of things and the DJing, as a young person, coming through. Getting to the UK, obviously, it was such a different culture shock, for want of a better term. Getting involved in the music here, I started with Notting Hill Carnival, and funny you should say Coquille. The mass band I'm involved with is actually called Coquille London. So getting involved with that, branched off into other things, being involved with the DJing side of that, which opened a couple of doors into radio. And I think that's where the trajectory changed for me in that sense. Getting involved with radio, it was a BBC London radio station at a time called GLR, Greater London Radio, which then changed its name to London Live 94.9, and myself and a colleague was on there for the better part of 7 years. We always came back every year to Trinidad Carnival and did recorded specials and stuff like that to come back and play here on the radio. So from that I think that is what sort of kickstart the love and the push of not just the music but the culture here.
And when people say culture, and I'm glad you ended one day, there are two words you used, one trajectory and two culture, because you started off talking about music in different permutations, but at the same time, music is not all you do. So how did that love for the culture, as you describe it, evolve into different expressions?
That would be from growing up in our household. The family, the whole family structure, who my dad was, Winston Leonard. So, we were always around, major things in our lives growing up. So I think we were exposed to music and culture in a more in-depth way, without even realizing it, I would say, and that is what sort of permeates with me now, because you realize as you get older, all these other things growing up in the household, actually, you think, oh, right, but the culture side of it is, and I know that everyone uses that word a lot, but it encapsulates a lot of things. It's the music, it's the food, it's the carnival, it's the arts, that's how I see it. And getting involved in different things really pushed me to want to be that sort of person to make sure our very rich and diverse culture is out there being represented.
And it's interesting you say that, and I agree that sometimes when you're so immersed in it, you don't necessarily realize that you're learning until you're like, oh, okay, well, I know this, I know this, and I am able to share this.
Yeah.
But not everybody, I mean, let me say that differently. Some people can cook for themselves. There are some people who can't cook for people outside. So being immersed in the culture, being immersed in these experiences is one thing, but actually
Yes.
taking it further from survival, yes, you have to eat to live, or being a hobby, to actually being something that you spread and you have people themselves immersed in that experience. What are some of the
Yeah.
ways, or how did that take place?
Okay, so from as you were talking about the food, from the food aspect of things, I lived in a beach town in the southwest of England called Bournemouth for a few years. Although the family was always based here in Croydon, and down there, you know, the Caribbean, there was really nothing Caribbean, whether it was music or anything else. So being a DJ in the club and then started to manage a club and then moving from that club to manage another venue. And I had the opportunity there because the venue never opened during the day, especially on the weekend. And so I said to the owners, I was like, could we start like a Saturday grill during the day, you know, a Caribbean grill? And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead, you know. And it was a task because obviously being in a predominantly Caucasian area, white area, when you say Caribbean food, the first thing they think of is Jamaican food, you know. So it was a task um, getting them to understand, well, look, this is our a cuisine from Trinidad and Tobago. We do things similarly. It's more or less the same, but it's just done, slightly different in some ways. And it's from that just took off in a big way. From a Saturday grill at the cocktail bar, it just took off in a big way. And they Bournemouth had a food festival one year, and they asked me if I would like to take part. It was over a weekend, and I did, and it was extremely successful in terms of the brand that the food brand that it was, and for the food as well, and the people, and they were always asking questions. I was also part of one of the national radio stations over here had what they call the chef kitchen. So I was actually one of the chefs, showing how to prepare a particular meal and how long it took and stuff like that. And I did like this fish dish, and there was this little young guy because I gave samples and stuff like this. No more than 11, 12 years old. Came up afterwards, waited to get a sample, and then he came back over to our little chalet that we had, serving the food from. And he said to me with his dad lined up, and he said, "I just have to congratulate you because I think your food is much better than Jamie Oliver," which is funny, Jamie Oliver being a celebrity chef. I'm not a formally trained chef in any form or fashion. It's all learned from home and watching your parents and learning from your parents. So, and the food took off from there in a big, big, big way. But that.
And I think sometimes there's this opportunity for beauty to have those conversations after someone has tasted, and then you go through the process. But sometimes the biggest thing is to get people to taste it. Huh? I remember at one point in time, there was this person that had never seen callaloo, and they were describing it to somebody after they'd had it. And they would say, this thing, it looks like baby food, but it tastes really good. And just being able to have those conversations, and so much meaning is shared. But with regard to that, though, you're being featured right now. You're able to showcase your work at the Museum of Croydon and the National Portrait Gallery. How significant is that to you, knowing where it is you come from, knowing how it is you've learned, what it is you have, and what does that say to just the influence of Trinidad and Tobago on that stage in general?
The honor is, I'm immensely proud of myself for that. Now, being selected is not only the case of doing stuff or doing things of culture, whether it's music or food or anything like that, within the borough of Croydon. It's because I live in the borough of Croydon and I've done all these other things with regards to my culture, as in our culture, with the music and the food and the masquerade and the carnival and all these things. So the selection, obviously, I had they contact me. I had to do like a preview interview with them for selection, and then when I got the call to say, okay, you're being selected as one of these, people from the Caribbean, for the exhibition, you know, shock and happiness together at the same time is a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling.
And we're going to talk about that feeling and other things when we return from this break. We're speaking with Ché Leonard, who is being honored, featured among other exceptional persons of Caribbean heritage. We continue the conversation when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are having a conversation with Ché Leonard, a multi-hyphenate artist, a creative, and he is being featured at this point in time along with other individuals of Caribbean heritage at the Croydon, well, in Croydon right now. But looking at that fact, and you said it's not just food, it's not just radio, there's this gestalt effect, Ché. You are sharing this stage at this point in time. You're being featured with persons like, I think Desmond Dike is one of them. Another one is the first female police constable. So these people, they're these people who they're doing stuff, as people say, they're saying something. And being able to share that stage with other influential persons from the Caribbean, how does that make you feel?
That feeling is incredible, because when you walk into that exhibition, for the people that they've featured who aren't with us right now, and you're seeing all these murals and their bios and their writers of what they've achieved, and you have to go through that. So you're starting that history walk from there, and you look around and you think to yourself, do I have to pinch myself because I'm being featured in this fashion with along these great people that came before not just me but the other people who are being featured as well, and it's really an incredible experience. I can't express how happy I am for that. And the major thing for me, the takeaway of that is this whole exhibition is, once all the exhibitions have closed, that oral interview that was done, is going to be going into the National Archives of the National Portrait and the archives. So from now on, forevermore, and that is just, absolutely mind blowing.
One of the reasons that I ask is that many times when you're just in it, you're trying to survive, you have these things that you're dealing with in front of you, you don't necessarily take the time to breathe and see the things that you've done already. So it's almost as though there's this hard stop where you're seeing what you have done, what you have accomplished thus far, in reference, in relation to other individuals. But with that in mind, looking at that relative comparison, is there anything that you wish that you knew a little earlier along the path, or is there anything that you'd want to tell Ché, who's coming up the first time he's opening this thing on a Saturday, the Caribbean Grill? What's some of that that knowledge that you'd want to share with a younger yourself?
No, there's so many things. You ask that person, anybody that in retrospect, straight away their mind is going into overdrive to, what it is really. With regards to one thing from my past that, I still do it now, which is the studio production and studio engineering and stuff like that. But one of the things where I started that degree with someone of high reputation now. We're both and still are very good friends professionally and obviously personal. And we started this studio engineering course together. And I don't know what made me think, you know what? No, I can't be doing this. And he stuck to it, and he went on to be one of the world's, and it was quoted in Billboard magazine as one of the world's greatest studio engineers to ever walk this earth. And we were doing that course together, right? Um, but the University of Life, I think, taught me different things and put me on a path to where I am now in terms of looking more to be a little more diverse with regards to the music, the radio presentation, the DJing, the music remixing, the concert productions. So it actually put me on a different path, that I didn't end up regretting, you know.
And it's always a blessing to be able to go through and say, okay, well, I don't have regrets. I may have done some things a little differently, but I don't regret. That is a blessing. But how do you decide, okay, well, I have an idea. This is how I'm going to articulate it. I'm going to build a beat, or I'm going to try to toy with that idea on the radio program, or I'm going to turn it into food. How do you articulate your different avenues of expression?
From the food side of things, looked and still do. I looked at a lot of cooking programs online. One of them, funnily enough, was Jamie Oliver. One of his earlier offerings in TV was a show called Naked Chef. And he always put a different spin on different things that he was preparing and cooking and stuff like that. What I used to do was take some of the stuff in terms of whether it's an Italian dish or whether it's a Spanish dish, but try and recreate that with our sort of ingredients and our sort of spices and herbs, and give it that Trinidad Caribbean twist it. And I've always experimented with food in that manner. And then when I reached to the level where I was head chef for a couple of restaurants, I then now try to take the twist now and put it the other way, and refine some of our dishes for the menu. So, with regards to the food, I've learned a lot working alongside some great chefs and stuff. So it helped me, get a better understanding of the process. Because, us Trinidadians or Caribbean people in the whole would season meat, for instance, and everything is seasoned and everything is in there, and then you cook the meat, right? What I learned was the process of layering. So, same ingredients, not just all together in the meat at the same time. You layer those ingredients, and you get an elevated taste of the same dish with the same ingredients, but not the same way it should taste, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man, nuance is important.
Pardon?
Nuance is important.
It is. And from the music side of things, I always had an ear for beat matching in terms of if I'm doing a remix on the fly. So when I was growing up, obviously the computers and what it is now, we were vinyl DJs, right? So it was a case of remixing on the fly. So it would be a beat of one thing with, something from another. And I always had a good ear for that. And I think that is what helped me progress from a studio remix, from a remixer, producer side of things. And it has always worked for me. When I was in BBC, London Live, one of the biggest hip hop DJs were on just after us. So I would always finish my show with a hip hop soca mix or a dancehall soca mix or something like that, so it can flow into their show. So I think from the music side of things, it's always been easy for me. I've always had an ear for that, always.
And you said after this exhibition, and remind me exactly where the exhibition is going to be, but you said after the exhibition is going to be archived and it will be there for posterity. But what is next for you after this exhibition? What are some of those things that you want to focus on?
So after the exhibition in Croydon, the National Portrait Gallery is actually going to launch the exhibition there, which is in central London. I believe it's going to run for a month again. And then once that exhibition closes, my interview would be in the archives, so then people can go in now and search and hear my story amongst the other great people. With regards to the follow-up of that, I mean, this has opened up my eyes now to a totally different world right now, and it's very exciting in the sense that now I would like to be more involved in projects like this, not just the subject, but to be part of that process to get, you know, whether it's so this is in Croydon. We are the Borough of Culture 2023. If it's going to be, we have different wards, which is like different little sections of Croydon, so like North Croydon, East Croydon, South Croydon. If anything at all possible, because other projects I've done music projects for schools in the Isle of Wight in Southampton, before, you know, in my previous years. I've gone and I've done cooking, one-to-one cooking, showing them how to prep and cook the meal, as well as showing them a matching cocktail to go with that. So, but this project has opened my eyes in ways, you know, I want to do a lot more. I want to explore the avenue of culture from a different perspective now, and be the person to start highlighting other people in there.
And it's always so important to be able to create and curate these experiences, so that I think by your efforts and the efforts of other like-minded individuals, there would be individuals who are able to feel the warmth of the islands without ever setting foot on one of them. But we want to thank you and congratulate you once more, Ché Leonard, multi-hyphenate creative, doing the most and being honored as such as he should be. And on behalf of the entire news team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.